Well, welcome to the second of our webinars. We're looking at the economic impact of an epidemic, a new approach to doing business. As we did before, we're going to divide this into two sections, starting with some analysis from Professor Xiaogang, and then going into a panel. We have three panelists. We have Tim Lee, founder and CEO of QFPay. We have Dennis Ng, founder and CEO of MOBA Technology, and Edith Young, who's a general partner at Race Capital. They're coming to us from all over the world. I'm here in Hong Kong, but I'm going to start by going over to Professor Xiaogang. Now, Professor Xiao is a professor and director of the Research Institute of the Maritime Silk Road at Peking University, HSBC Business School, and president of Hong Kong Institution for International Finance. Professor Xiang, thank you for joining us today. We're going to start by asking you to give a short analysis, maybe about 15 minutes or so, and then after that we will open it up for questions and answers. Professor Xiang, over to you.
Thank you, David. It's a pleasure here. I think we're talking about economic recovery, right? And in fact, I'm busier than before, even though I'm staying at home since actually Chinese New Year. I've been doing all my teachings online. So it looks like at least for people in this part of the world, we are actually on the way to full recovery. However, I think the global economy is actually quite uncertain, largely because the pandemic is actually not just a natural disaster. It triggers multiple crises. Financial crisis, which fortunately the US has a lot of experience and basically controlled it very quickly by injecting a lot of money. But then the lockdowns, a lot of measures actually leads to the problems in supply chains and consumption and jobs. But I think the most important right now is actually the social instability, I think in the US. Because of the political divide, the elections, creates a lot of nervous, and then that basically leads to some geopolitical tension, between China and the United States. So it's very interesting because we are actually at the crossroad in the sense that the contrast between our part of the world, Asia Pacific and Greater China, and the US and in a way, Europe is so big. China and also Hong Kong, we used very much low-tech, public health interventions to, control the pandemic very quickly. Hong Kong, we have only like about 1,000 infections, only 4 deaths. I think what is really striking is that, Jeffrey Sachs, professor at the Columbia University, he pointed out that, there are 6 economies in the Asia Pacific, Australia, Japan, Korea, New Zealand, and also regions like Taiwan, China, Taiwan, and Vietnam. They actually have roughly the same population, about 328 million as in the US. But, they only recorded like a 1.2% of deaths compared to those in the US, because US is almost have 100,000 deaths. And all these 6 countries only have like 1,200 deaths. So this is really striking. Of course, China's number is extremely good if you look at only at the deaths, divided by population. And well, some people may say that this is because of data. But I think Financial Times actually has some very useful data. Basically they look at the total deaths in a country or in a city compared to like last year, the same period. They're using April this year compared to April last year. Their finding is also striking. Basically, the increase in the deaths in New York City is like 340%. In London is 124%. In Stockholm, is 81%. So and similar numbers. I'm not repeat. I will not actually go to the detail. Also, same pattern. For country level. So here is really the problem. I think without firmly containing the pandemic, it's very difficult to have a full and sustainable quality recovery. And this is so actually for the whole world, because if the US and other countries cannot control the pandemic, then even this six Asian Pacific economy and the greater China economy, we still has to put a lot of efforts, in protecting us. And there's a danger of second wave, third wave, coming in the future. So I think the future of economic recovery really depends on how the whole world can work together, really containing this new novel coronavirus. And here, it actually doesn't matter, which political system, which institutions, settings. It's really comes down to the role of responsible government. The six Asia Pacific economies I mentioned before, they are all like open democratic, economies, right? And China have very different political institutions, but their performance in containing pandemic is actually very similar. So the issue is, whether the government is blaming game, or actually trying to learn. I was wondering how come countries like the U.S. does not actually quite try to learn from Hong Kong, and Taiwan. Another thing is that we can notice a very different approach. Whether trying to make profit, save the stock market, or actually, trying to help people. Basically, if you want to help people, you have first to ensure, the life and the health of them, right? So that means that you have to really to stop the pandemic. And after you have stopped the pandemic, then the issue, you have a lot of opportunities. Then you can do a lot of long-term development and structural adjustment towards like a new economy, internet-based, economy, like what I'm doing now. We are doing now, with Zoom. We actually save a lot of costs. I don't need to go to the studio. Every time I go to the studio, in the past, it's a pain. But now I can sit at home, joining the global discussion. So I think the future is actually looks great for those countries who have successfully contained the pandemic, even though they are using very low tech methodologies. Basically testing, contact tracing, quarantining, and then hospitalizing those seriously, people with serious problems. And another thing is basically wearing masks, which is so simple. But somehow, it's too difficult to really change the people's behavior. As we can see, in the US and other countries. So I think the future of the global economy right now really falls between two future, two model, two kind of strategy. One is really led by China and this Asia Pacific, what I mentioned, 6 Asia Pacific countries. And here, people first, save people's life, and ensure they're healthy, and then you start focusing on jobs. So I think in the case of China, because China has successfully controlled this pandemic, so China is now going from like a emergency rescue operation, which lasted for just a few months, now is actually going to the normal, some kind of new normal. And the focus is actually on quality and long-term development. So as we can see from the 2 sections, basically there's no growth rate target. There's no flood of money, but there's a lot of fine-tuning of physical, financial, and monetary policy. And there's a lot of delegations, to the local government and business sector, because the objective is actually to deal with this issue in a more decentralized way, but with emphasis on adjusting, towards what they call the new infrastructures, and also like online, using the digital infrastructure. So on the other extreme, is what happens in the US. The IMF basically highlighted major countries already committed 9 trillion, dollars, US dollars, monetary fiscal measure. And the WTO, World Trade Organization, is actually predicting global trade is going to fall between 13% to 32%. And the U.S. Federal Reserve, basically already expanded its balance sheet like, just under $3 trillion US dollars. And with all these measures, because the pandemic is not yet under control, so the Congressional Budget Office is predicting, next quarter is going to be, US GDP going to drop, almost 40%. And for the year, it's going to fall, 5.6%, for the US, which is the largest economy, right now. And the US unemployment is already like 40 million. So, because of time, I'm going to stop here, but just to try to highlight, the outlook for the global economy now looks, there are 2 paths. And the 2 paths is not converging. And we are fortunate because we are in the Asia Pacific, West, Pacific in particular. And so I think Hong Kong, is actually in the middle. So far, I think Hong Kong is doing extremely well. Actually tomorrow we are going to open. The government already announced that karaoke's in Hong Kong can be opened. Tomorrow, right? So, and I think the financial market has not stopped. It's been very active in Hong Kong. So I'm actually quite optimistic about our region. Given the time, I would just stop here to see whether there's any questions, we can discuss.
Sure.
Thank you, David.
Okay. I have a question to go straight from that. I think you've made the linkage between controlling the numbers of cases that you have and the deaths and looking after the people first, and the financial stability is a clear linkage that you've made. But I'm wondering if some countries or regions in this area were better prepared in terms of their financial systems, in terms of maybe the reserves that they had to deal with this kind of process, and others maybe not so. Do you have a sort of opinion on those, that specifically in terms of, you know, were some places really well set up to manage this, and others, maybe you could give some examples, regions, possibly not countries, that weren't so ready for this, the impact that this was going to have?
Yeah, definitely. This is a very good question. You know, for countries in our region, you know, because we experienced the Asian financial crisis and also SARS, and also global financial crisis. And we, you know, have very high savings and very high reserves. And particularly, I think in China, you know, China has been trying to do this supply side reform, you know. So I think over last decade, you know, the financial market basically were flat, you know, no bubble, you know. But on the other hand, if you look at the US and other part, you know, some of the countries in our region, you know, if they are not trying to, you know, doing the structural reform, you know, keeping the high, you know, kind of readiness for this crisis, then now they are under tremendous pressure, you know, with currency pressure, you know, all this outfly, capital fly, you know, all this, yeah. So I think definitely this is a test of you know, a country's readiness, you know, for crisis and for long-term development.
And something that this is just a point that I'd like to add to what you've said already. I mean, one thing that has happened here in Hong Kong is when we've been discussing the way the government has dealt with it, I think people are very quick to also note that Hong Kong had been through SARS. And as a result of that, the people here were very quick to take on these sort of social distancing measures and wearing masks and all these other things, because of the experience that they'd had. And I don't think we can downplay that too much. I have the first question that has come in from Sally Joe, and she's asking, the outbreak of the corona pandemic has caused profound impact on the world economic and trade system. While the pandemic is still developing, uncertainties rising from its outbreak are also increasing. How can Hong Kong improve its financial environment to bring in more capital, talent, and management concepts in the post-pandemic era?
Well, I think Hong Kong has already, you know, attracted so much capital and talents. So the question is how to keep them here. And I think one of the difficulties that Hong Kong is really small, you know, so our really hinterland is the Greater Bay Area. So, and also, you know, our future is really to become a regional, you know, I think the Asia, you know, center. So that's why what we're doing now, for example, today, Hong Kong Stock Exchange, you know, announced that they could sign the, you know, agreement with MSCI to really to introduce new products, you know, the Asia emerging market based the futures market. You know, that's our future. You know, we need to basically you know, going into this global stage, particularly for Asia. But then because we are actually based here in the Greater Bay Area, so in order to improve the quality of life for the talents, you know, we attracting, you know, here, we need basically much bigger, you know, kind of local environment. So that I think is the future, you know.
I'd like to just sort of pick up on that as well. You know, we're talking about Hong Kong specifically. Do you think this is a time that Hong Kong really needs to use effectively, because we're ahead of other countries? I know quite a few, or others, as you mentioned, in this region have got this virus under control, but it gives us an advantage also, does it, to make the most of the fact that we're clear and that we can get going before anyone else? It gives us a head start, as it were, in the recovery process.
Definitely, you know, Hong Kong, I would say basically all mainland China wants the good things, is all in Hong Kong, the open economy, the legal system, common law based, legal system, everybody understands, people around the world understands, right? And our quality capital market, banking, all this is here. But what Hong Kong wants the most is just available across the border, the space, the market. So the two just has so much complementarities. And once we overcome some of these frictions, in the national security or whatever, issues, this is going to be the best place in the whole world in terms of the future of the economy and people's living standards.
Okay, I have a question in from Buddy Sharma. He's saying, how do you analyze post-COVID-19 US-China relations and its economic impacts on the global economy and monetary stability?
Well, that's really good question. This is something, every countries are thinking about, I think that the US-China really, they have three issues. One is the national security, which of course everybody cares about. But how much you want to pay? It's fundamentally the two countries does not have any really real conflicts. The country too far away. And if you look at the so-called value. For people really understand the two countries, the values are converging. So I think that's something which, on national security. But more importantly, these are the two biggest economy. The people in the two countries, they really want each other. Chinese want Apple phone, and some of the high quality products, and the American, people, especially low income, people in the US, they buy a lot of China, made of China, cheap, good quality, consumer products, right? So, and the last area is really about the global order, without the US and China cooperating, just like in this pandemic, I mean, the whole world can achieve nothing, right? So I think sooner or later, the two countries has only one way basically to cooperate, because otherwise, the cost will be so big, not just for the two, for the whole world. I don't, a nuclear war is possible, and the Cold War also is impossible because, the two countries already so much related to each other, right? So now we are in a kind of a cool war, trying to compete everywhere, every aspects. But that's really not good. We need to go from cool war towards really cooperation. So that's really, I think the two countries are trying to figure out, how to deal with each other.
Okay, we've got lots of questions coming in. Unfortunately, we've only got time for one more. I'm going to take this one from Joel Adriano, who's saying, which subsector do you think is most affected by the pandemic? What immediate adaptation should they apply to survive?
I think the most affected, in terms of sectors is really the service sector, right? But those service sector, as you can see in Hong Kong and in China, as soon as the pandemic was stopped, they will recover very quickly. And what is really important is really this geopolitical tension, which is going to lead to some kind of decoupling in supply chains. And that's really something, could last for quite a few years, even decades. So for those areas, I think particularly a lot of technology companies, they have to really think about, because the two countries is going to duplicate the two systems, which would be very costly, because in the past, the one system, is going to pay by global consumers, but now, you have to pay by your own consumer. So that I think is the biggest risk for the global economy. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Chow. I'm hoping you're going to stay on with us while we go into the panel, and maybe we'll have some questions to you later on. Now, if you're watching this on Zoom, that you'll be taken to some holding music before we start the panel. Please hold on, because we have three very, very exciting speakers who are going to talk about some of the solutions and some of the very sort of innovative ways they have been dealing with this pandemic. So hold on.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, welcome back to our webinar. We're here discussing a tipping point. This is the name of a series, the second in our series on the economic impact of the pandemic and a new approach to doing business. I'm very happy to say we have three panelists who are going to discuss the subject. We're looking firstly to talk to Tim Lee, who is the founder and CEO of QPay. It was named by the US magazine Fast Company as the 100 most creative leaders in China, and was named by Fortune China as one of the top 40 under 40 entrepreneurs. He also obtained the Distinguished Alumni Award by the Faculty of Engineering at the Chinese University of Hong Kong in 2017. We also have, coming after that, Mr. Dennis Ng, who's the founder and CEO of MOBA Technology. Dennis is the founder of MOBA Philippines, also CEO of MOBA Philippines, the first same-day delivery platform in the Philippines that's currently backed by one of the Philippines logistics giants, To Go Group of SM Investments Corporation. Since its launch in 2016, the company has significantly grown. It's currently providing Filipinos in Metro Manila and Cebu, the access to easy and affordable delivery solutions for their individual needs, businesses, and customers. And then finally, we'll be talking with Miss Edith Young. Edith Young is a general partner at the Race Capital and author and creator of the China Internet Report, an annual report on China technology trends, widely popular among investors and corporate executives, and Silicon News weekly briefings on Silicon Valley funding, merger and acquisition news. Let's start with Tim Lee. Maybe you can just, I'm hoping that all of you will give a short sort of 7-minute introduction to what you've been doing, some of the innovations that you've been using as part of your response to COVID-19, and then we'll take it into an open Q&A session. So over to you, Tim.
Okay, thank you. It's my great pleasure today. Actually, it's my first open webinar. Yeah, so due to the COVID-19, so this is the first change. Yeah, I would say. So I would like to take a brief introduction about our company, QPay. Actually, we are providing one-stop mobile payment and e-commerce solution over the world. Is it? I just want to know, is it my connection is good?
It's great. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we are now serving over 14 markets over the world, mainly Asia, and actually we are providing a one-stop solution for over 140 payment methods all over the world. So no matter you are offline store, online store, and app, we can provide one-stop solution, and you can do business anywhere, anytime. So we serve a lot of very good corporate clients like LVMH Group, Gucci, Rolex. There's a lot of different groups, and also some good internet companies as well. And we are invested by Sequoia and Matrix and a lot of Rakuten funding. So this is a brief introduction of our company. And I would like to take this chance to share some of our understanding or our observation and our measures during the COVID. First of all, the whole COVID actually affect from the China side, and then the Asia, and then the rest of the world. And I see actually a lot of the local and travel business are greatly affected, especially the offline travel business. From our data, first of all, it's gone down by more than like 8% in the most serious period, especially those, I think it's back to February, when China is the most severe affected region. Our Chinese business gone down for more than like up to 80%. And right now it's rise to about 50 to 60% of the peak high, still recovering. But I would say that it may never become the peak high in a short time, because I think quite, especially those SMB business, they closed down due to the COVID-19. And we can see the China region recover first. And right now, the rest of the region in the Asia, they are recovering slowly, not that fast, because some of them are still locked down. I just have a call with the Singapore team. They are still locked down today. So the offline and travel related business is in really great trouble. They are all asking for alternative payment solution, especially for those online. So we introduced our remote payment solution. This means that instead of you need to go to the store, you can request a payment just by any social media like WhatsApp, Facebook, Messenger, WeChat, and other different or email. You just send a link, and then through the link you can receive the payment, and you send out the products by all logistic measures, no matter it's locally or cross-border. And also we have seen some new business arise during these 3 months. But of course, most of them are online business. We see like in the Hong Kong case, we see because due to the lockdown, all the children, all the child are all stay at home. The parents are very panic on how to make good use of the time for education and other purpose. So we see a new e-commerce that facing children and child under age of 3. They rise from using a total new e-store from nothing to now about 500,000 transactions per month. So, and also like today about the webinar broadcast, it's a huge success, especially in China. We helped some of our brands to do the Forever First live broadcast, and actually the record high broadcast is one of our clients. They sold about 20 million of goods during one broadcast over the nation. And also we make a really fast movement by providing more than just payment solution, but also a very comprehensive e-commerce solution with a strategic alliance with Shopify. So right now we are providing an omni-channel payment. We are providing a full e-commerce solution with Shopify for local and overseas, and also some mini program for Chinese people, and also a global marketing. And at the same time, actually we do something more for just in the moment, but also build our ability in the futures. We actually keep on integration and projects with all those new wallets like Indonesia, Gojek, in Philippines we have Gcash. All this wallet integration and enhancement, we keep on moving, although it's still locked down. The project is really slow, but we can see they want to prepare, because they will see that after the COVID-19, the movement of cashless, become a cashless country, will be faster than before. And also we see some movement from the government as well. Like the Hong Kong government, they took this really good chance. They enable a new funding, about 500 million, called distant business. This distant business funding is really good when compared to the previous other fundings. It enable especially SMB to get digital transformation easily from their service provider like us without paying any money. So previous funding, they usually need to pay maybe like 20% or maybe up to 50% of the service you use. Now this funding up to 500 million, all is paid by the government. And we see due to this trigger, attractive of the funding and also great need of the doing business online, we see a huge number of applications just in maybe like in 1 week. It's over like 10,000 of merchants, they want to apply for this scheme. So I think this some of the COVID-19 impact and the measure we change. And I would like to share a few thinking about what will be next about after the crisis. First of all, I would say that online business, online channel, and OMI business channel will become the norm. So no matter you are offline business or you are already online, there will be more and more money or more and more resources will be put over the online channel. And also, there will be a faster mobile payment adoption, as I mentioned, because right now, every cash may become a carrier of the COVID-19. So we are talking about the total touchless payment. So instead of just the mobile payment, actually we have some of the self-purchase machine that without can enable even offline business to do the whole thing without any touching. Yeah, and also I would say that due to our observation about we are part of the total travel business. I think the travel norm will change at least maybe at end of this year or maybe even next year. The global long trip travel may be long gone. I think they will change to a new what we call bubble travel or regional travel. So just like Southeast Asia, we have Philippines, we have Singapore, Thailand, or Malaysia. This closely or boundary all relate together. They will become a bubble travel region. So they may have their health sign or their health COVID-19 recognition system integrate together. They can show that they are safe to travel within this region for different countries. But the long time travel from like maybe from Hong Kong to London or New York to Africa may be gone to minimal until the next year. So I think all the business need to rethink about in this time. The time maybe last for at least more than 6 months until end of this year or maybe even next year. All the business will be changed. So I think right now we are helping our customer to do everything, trying to online, and even cross-border we do it online also. So I think it's good for me for showing up till now, and then maybe we can see others presenters, and then I'll open up for Q&A later.
Okay, thank you very much, Tim. We do actually have questions have come in already, but we're going to hold those until everyone's had a chance to speak, and then we'll go around them one at a time. Now, Tim, you're talking about selling lots of goods, 20 million in one case, I think you mentioned, but all of those goods have got to be shipped and brought to people's houses. So we're going to switch across to Dennis Ong, who's part of this logistics network. Maybe you can just introduce your company a little bit and tell us what you've been doing or how you've been growing possibly during this pandemic.
Hi, DJ. Yeah, I'm Dennis. I'm from the Philippines. Thank you for having me here today. Yes, Mober is an on-demand delivery app. It's a platform for same-day delivery. We match the SMEs, individual or businesses to these drivers. When I founded Mober 2016, the motivation was like every Filipinos, every SMB in the Philippines, they have to buy their own van and they have to serve their own deliveries. So with this motivation, I want the SMEs just to focus on their business and let us do the logistics for them. The difference between our ecosystem in the Philippines against Hong Kong and Singapore, we have so many unbanked delivery drivers in the Philippines. These unbanked drivers, they don't even have a bank account. What more, they can own their own delivery van. So last year, Mober decided to help this unbanked driver by helping them to own their own van, just pay as a daily rental. Then after 3-4 years, they will own their van. So this is our way of helping our unbanked driver and at the same time to help our supply. So when the lockdown started last February, the first thing I have in my mind as a founder is like, okay, this is good because everybody will stop. My competitors, they will stop. Then I have more time to reboot. No, I have more time to channel and check how to improve Mober. So with a 1 month lockdown, on the first week, I did not panic. I said, okay, I set my mind, I want to reboot and making sure that after a month, I have a better plan. Then after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the surge of online seller is really unbelievable. Everybody's selling online. And as a founder, as an entrepreneur, should I panic that I'm not in that space? Should I react? Or what to do? Or should I take a look at my cash flow that this is all opportunity lost? So we are hit very hard because Mober specializes in appliance delivery, furniture delivery. So in the Philippines, when the government locked down the whole city, the whole country, they're not allowing non-essential items to be delivered. So we have to try and check and to pivot on how can we help our drivers because they are living on a paycheck to paycheck. So with these opportunities, as a founder, I decided not to react to the surge of these deliveries. Because Mober, we don't have motorcycle delivery. We only focus on the bulky and bulk items. So this new normal were in groceries, supermarket. These are all small items that they need motorcycle deliveries. Honestly and frankly speaking, as a founder, I am very tempted to react, to go to that space. Even on the biggest logistic company in the Philippines, they reacted and they went into that same-day delivery into my space. Well, again, as a founder, I realized what is more important. Will this lockdown be here forever, or should I take advantage of the lockdown and focus on planning and come up with more sustainable plan so that after the lockdown, then we can have a better chance to go and compete with our competitors. So again, for me, it's very important for sustainability. Of course, reacting to the opportunities is one thing. So why we did not react to the motorcycle delivery, but we reacted to another opportunity. Take, for example, we are partnering now with one of the biggest mall operator in the Philippines. During the lockdown, it becomes a driver market. This social media online seller, when they book for an on-demand delivery, the driver, they keep on waiting to give them a better rates, to offer tips before they will accept the delivery. So now, the on-demand market is disrupted because of the surge of this delivery. So what we did now, partnering with this big malls, because they're the one affected. They don't operate. They don't charge their tenants for rentals. So when we collaborated with them, we proposed that slowly when they open, why don't you use that storefront to be a fulfillment center? So we created a community delivery, and we created a better rates. We created a better delivery fee, flat rate within the community. So in this way, I realized that, yeah, this can have a sustainability, because after we open the market or the city to after the lockdown, I think the social distancing will really deter, and there will be long queue going to the supermarket, long queue going to the shopping mall. Then I think having us there as their logistic partner and giving all the buyers an easy way to book a delivery is a better opportunity for us, rather than they're reacting to be an on-demand delivery platform. So again, this lockdown season, this pandemic period, I realized that there are two things, right? What we've been doing before the lockdown has a validation of all our projects. Like, for example, there are so many, unfortunately, there are so many Filipinos lost their job also during this pandemic. So going back to the unbanked driver, if they stick to be just a driver receiving paycheck to paycheck, then what more now? No deliveries of the companies that they're serving, they are closed down. So as a driverpreneur, most of our drivers serving with Mober now, these are all driverpreneur. They own their van, they work at their time. So again, it's very important that as a founder or as an entrepreneur, we have this validation of what we have been doing and what we are going to do in the future. Well, again, Philippines has a very unique market. We are totally different from Hong Kong and from Singapore. We know the market so well here, and with this period, with this pandemic, there are a lot of Filipinos now knowledgeable about online, and I think Tim is correct. We have so many unbanked Filipinos here. COD or cash on delivery is really rampant here. Maybe having a cashless platform will really boost the online business in the Philippines. And of course, once the online business is doing okay, then logistics will be doing okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Well, we have got lots of questions coming in. Thank you for those. We are going to get to them at the end of this. I want to give everyone a chance to speak. So I'm going to go over to Edith. Now, one of the things I've been hearing, Edith, is that when we get past this pandemic, we're likely to see a lot of startups just launching, who've come up with their ideas while they've been sat, bored under lockdown, and thinking about new ideas. And I think we've had some of that from Dennis as well, who's saying that during the lockdown was a chance for him to restructure the business. Maybe you can give a bit of an introduction to yourself, but also talk more about the investment side of this, the results all coming out of, should I say, this pandemic.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. So really quick to introduce Raise Capital. We're a venture capital firm really focused on enterprise data, infrastructure, software, SaaS, a lot of data and AI tools, particular focus on early A. We're very proud of the fact that capital for a company. We have a very, very clear view how we would like to look like 10 years from now. Daily Scrum call, and really want to work really closely, partner and invest with founders. And all of our partners are operator before, and we definitely want to do a little more. So really quick on your questions about like how's COVID impacting venture capital. I think COVID-19 really the black swan event, not only for 2020, but really for the decade. As Darwin would say, whoever it's not going to be the strong intelligence going to survive. It's going to be the one that is most adaptable. So I think what I want to how is COVID impacting venture capital, but also how it impacting a lot of the startup that we're seeing. So, so just to start with, I think that right now the situation for most of the venture capitalists is a little bit gloom and doom. I think like the mood is definitely not going well. I think we think that COVID really had changed a lot of behavior, regardless for our economy, for our life, for our work, and how everything is being operated. So a lot of venture capitalists are slowing down, most or less because they don't know how the economies look like, not let alone that if the existing portfolio companies are going to survive. And many of us who do keep what's going on for the last 5, 6, 7 years, valuation, particularly in China, is very, very high. So if you are that's later stage, the fact is many of them may have issues and problems and may not have enough run rate to survive. So having said that, I think for raise capital, we're a little bit different. The way that we think about it, look, our fund thesis is for 10 years. And if we don't have a viewpoint that can last 10 years, why do we even bother to invest and do this? So in some sense, what we're excited about, we think the worst time is the best time. This is the time, if we look back in some historical data, 2008, during the financial crisis, that is when some of the best companies like Uber, Lyft, Square, focus on more in the US, they all came out around the worst time when venture capital wasn't bullish at all, but yet it created some of the best company of the decade. And we think that now 2020, even though this year seems like we may as well write it off, but this is, I think, the worst time is the best time for some category in terms of certain industry, which I would touch on. So for us, and for many of the startups, I think now is what we're doing right now on this particular webinar is a daily activity for me. In fact, I'm pretty much on Zoom every single day. And I have to say that, like, to most of the startups, see, if you're fundraising now, you really have to get used to this, because face-to-face meeting, even you may feel comfortable, the other side may not. So we need to get used to. So please do not Zoom and drive or walking. I have certainly experienced that. Definitely, put a nice shirt on, even though you may be wearing pajamas at the bottom. But sometimes, like, people notice, like, when your house is messy, it's a reflection of how your company, even though obviously many of us are working from home. And then, so yeah, like, it's just a lot of practice. I wrote an article about it. I think we have a lot of funny moment just seeing pitch on Zoom. But last but not least, I think, for us, we wanted to embrace early stage startup regardless. But of course, not all startup created equal. I think later stage, if you're in the area that is in pharmaceutical, biotech, digital healthcare, on anything that is like online experience, regardless it's education, cybersecurity, data automation, online education, these are all like doing well. And I think, your company, if you're raising now, this situation may help and propel, because everybody's online now. But unfortunately, doesn't matter what stage you're in, if you are in the area where in sharing economy, anything that is facilitate, I think some of our panelists mentioned about travel or any sort of offline experience, that is physical education, physical travel, physical anything of healthcare, you will have a tough time. And I think for us, early stage, probably a little bit easier, more or less is because you don't have that, previous valuation that you have to deal with. But a lot of the venture capital, not because they don't want to invest, they also have a lot of portfolio company they need to make sure they can survive and support. So hang in there, everybody. I think that we're all going through a tough time. You're not the only one. And we really wanted to support you as a founder to hang in there. But at the same time, I think this is the time where you really need to think hard, probably cut costs, be really realistic, at least for 12 to 24 months, reduce expenses. But at the same time, we're not here to just support survivor. We're here to support winners. So hang in there. We want to support and invest in you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I should mention, of course, that you're talking to us from the West Coast in the US. So I just quickly had a look, and I think it must be past midnight where you are right now.
That's right. I am hanging there, not falling asleep yet, because awesome panelists. So
thanks for joining us. Okay, I have a question. The first question is to Tim Lee from Edward Lau, and he's asking, how does QFPay differ to, and sorry, it's not a very clear screen grab I've got here. So how's QFPay differs to and better than other payment platforms? Okay, how is it different from other platforms, and how is it better, like PayPal or Apple Pay or Alipay? Especially most of the prominent e-commerce platforms also have their own in-house or invested payment platforms.
Okay. Yeah, I get. First of all, I think the whole payment world is, I will separate into like two different regions. One is what I call is those developed countries like US, like Europe area or Australia. They are all using credit card. So you'll find a lot of like, you use like credit card, Visa, Master, and then you will have PayPal, and then you have all the online you will see is all Visa, Mastercard based payment and Apple Pay. No matter it's offline and online. But in terms of like Asia or developing countries region, especially you can see China, we have Philippines, Indonesia, Cambodia, Thailand, and even Japan. You see, most of them are cash country. They're mostly based on cash, and they're now changing. But they are not changing to credit card. They are not changing to Visa, Master. Instead, they are changing to wallet. Actually, we are a great integrator of all the wallet-based payment. So in all of this area of when you need to do business, if you don't want to accept cash, you want to have digital payment, what you need is that there may be 10 customers. One is using A Pay, one is using B Pay, one is using C Pay. So ABC may be like WeChat, Alipay, Gcash, Gojek, Grab, TNG. There's a lot of wallets. Actually, I just want to share this over 100 wallets over Asia right now. And there's still more is coming. And in each country or in each market, at least like 3 to 5 are dominant, and they won't kill each other due to their back end. They're really huge giants or conglomerates. So every customer, they choose their own wallets. But in terms when you are a shop, no matter offline or online, you want your customer to pay with what they want. So when they pay by cash, when they pay by Visa card, when they pay by Apple Pay, when they pay by Alipay or other pay method, you want to accept all. So we provide all-in-one solution, no matter where. So actually, we are not a competitor of those wallet or payment. Instead, we are an aggregator solution, providing them one-stop solution to make the business, especially today for online. So imagine you are a store from Hong Kong, especially e-store from Hong Kong or Singapore. You now want to sell to all over the world. With QFPay, right now, you can acquire the Western side with Visa, MasterCard, or Apple Pay ability, and then the Eastern side or Asia with all the wallet abilities. Yeah.
Thank you. So I have this next question, I think, can go to all of you. It's slightly more general from AJ Bajo. And it's a question that we spent quite a bit of time in the first webinar on, when we looked at companies that had a digital presence or a higher level of digital presence than bricks and mortar. And when companies are coming out of the pandemic, what should they be looking for in terms of the balance between digital and physical offline businesses? So the question here, let me just go through this. Businesses which utilize digital tools have an edge against traditional companies using the current crisis. during the current crisis, sorry. But are tech-enabled firms also experiencing challenges such as increasing privacy and security issues right now? And there's a second question along to that. What would an accelerated digitization of business operation mean for traditional businesses such as MSMEs, especially in the Philippines, and what are the ways that they could cope? Let me start by giving this to Dennis, and then maybe Edith as well can mention it, and then if you have something to say, Tim, we'll bring you in at the end.
Yeah. Okay. So I mentioned a while ago that we have to innovate. The traditional businesses who operate brick and mortar stores or they have presence in all shopping malls, I think they can still keep their stores and use that as a very good fulfillment center, meaning they can now have their own online store. At the same time, they operate their traditional brick and mortar and use the brick and mortar as a very good way of offering a better delivery pricing, because all malls in the Philippines, I believe they are geographically located within a vicinity of a community. So if, for example, one brand is selling online and somebody bought something and this person is very nearby in that place, so their brick and mortar store can do and fulfill it from there. And they can offer a very reasonable delivery fee. Unlike if their fulfillment center will be in their main warehouse, wherein it is located so far from the person who bought it, then of course the delivery fee will vary. So again, they can marry the online and the traditional brick and mortar. They can work hand in hand as far as the logistic cost is concerned.
So during the last webinar, we had one of the panelists who had a great example of how she was running brick and mortar and an online, and what she was able to do was to transfer the staff when they had to close down the brick and mortar stores, that she could use that staff and bring them in as the online was expanding very quickly during that period. And then when that started to tailor off, she could bring them back into the stores. Edith, maybe I can come over to you. Are there other examples of companies that have been able to really kind of ride the pandemic well by moving staff around between brick and mortar and digital presences?
Yeah, we're seeing, particular, like starting with, firm like Meituan, Dianping, and Ele.me really trained many of the Chinese restaurants. Almost, of course, it's not the same not having customers physically there, but many of them have adapted the idea of, it's completely okay because everybody basically treats their mobile phone as the waiter and waitress, and I can order pretty much anything and get delivered to my house without walking outside of our home. And I think if I put myself as a brick and mortar person, is really think about this, right? Of course, if we get a chance to have this conversation in person, I will love it. Having said that, I think no business can afford for this kind of pandemic to happen to them again, which means that as a business, it's our responsibility to make sure that regardless of what happens to us economically, or if there's another, hopefully not, this happen again, we can operate just as usual, right? Similar to, as earlier, Hong Kong is doing well, China is doing well to cope with what's going on because we have experience. And now a lot of the brick and mortar businesses is seeing what's going on. They are super adaptable. I think online or doing customer service, support online and mobile ordering, I don't think this is going away. For all the brick and mortar merchants, if you are not doing, your competitors are. So it's time to really look. I think we're forced to do that, but I do think that this behavior is here to stay.
Yeah, I can see this being a new question from venture capitalists when startups are pitching to you is, what is your pandemic plan? What are you going to do if there's another COVID-19? I have another question actually specifically to you, Edith, from Edward Lau. He's asking, what are the most common mistakes of the new aspiring startup that would not attract funding when they're coming to you, to the Shark Tank? Especially everyone is competing for the VC funds during the beauty parade. I'm not sure what that means, but
we're not Shark Tank, so I found it super entertaining, and I think that, yeah, for sure. Usually the suggestion that I have with Hong Kong Chinese entrepreneur whenever they pitch is, I think many of the Chinese entrepreneurs are very, very great at building product, and usually jump into the pitch starting to tell us about how their product work. But unfortunately, it's not that we don't care about the product, but what we care about is the founder and entrepreneur, their understanding of the macroeconomics, what's the landscape, what is the competitors, like what is the pain point, who are the customers. We usually want to know a lot more sort of around the business and how this business is built and how the founders think. That to me is actually more important than how the product work. So I look forward to learning more from all the amazing entrepreneurs on this call. But the key thing is when you want to attract a startup organization with an investor, first off, make sure that you do your homework. I am not, we do look at digital healthcare, but I am not qualified to anything that is related to pharmaceutical or biotech. We just not qualified to invest it. So you definitely don't want it to talk to any investor that don't even have a clue with what you're building. So there's a lot of, it's like dating. You need to do your homework and we need to invest. So it's our job to see as many of you as possible. But at the same time, I think we need to be selective. You need to be selective on who you talk to, and also pick and choose what you want to focus on at your pitch.
okay, thank you. We have another question coming in from Philip Herbert. It's a question to you, Dennis. He's saying, what is MOBA doing to address the carbon footprint and waste packaging footprint of delivery services? What do you think of a green tax to take account of the carbon impact of delivery and the increase of waste packaging and single-use plastics?
Okay. Okay, I think I'm not, I think that question should not be given to me, because in the Philippines, okay, we're moving forward. 2021, I think MOBA will bring in at least 10 electric delivery van. We're talking to the biggest furniture center. They'll be opening here in the Philippines, and we will be serving it with electric delivery van. Okay, I think in the Philippines, as a general setting, I think our government already banned using plastic, but we are still consuming a lot of diesel, gasoline, and going to the green vehicle. I think it will take some time. It will take some time, unfortunately.
Okay. I have, I think this question is going to be for you, Tim, and it's from Andy Teo. He's saying it's interesting on the uptake of e-wallet or mobile payment apps. However, how would you suggest that the missing gaps be covered where a segment of the general public who does not have a credit card or smartphones, the forgotten community has limited, to be bridging tools? I'm just reading what came out. Sorry, the English is not perfect. I.e. credit card and smartphone to such payment platforms. I think he's trying to get, and he's trying to ask more about the people, particularly across Asia Pacific, many people who don't have access to a credit card.
Yeah, I think that's the key. I separate the world into like developed countries or developing countries. So why so in those more Western world, we see everyone have a credit card. When I was in US, I buy a Coke for $1 US with a credit card. So everyone is changing to a credit card, Apple Pay. But as the one who asked, this is the case where we see all the developing countries, they don't even have a banking account. So we are not talking about credit card. They don't even have a bank account. So now it's like, just like where we talk about VCD, DVD, and then what's next should be like Blu-ray. So some of the people change to Blu-ray, but actually, what's next? You can see YouTube and Netflix. So in terms of payment, we found two paths. One path is traditional evolution. One is using credit card, they change to Apple Pay, Google Pay. And then there's those using cash. So we think that they should follow the West. They should use the credit card and the Apple Pay. But actually they don't. They skip it. They change to directly mobile payment with all the e-wallet. So the e-wallet behind them, they can link either to a banking account or even though it's the first ever financial account they have. So right now, a wallet is not just a wallet. It's more like a virtual bank. So even you don't have a credit card, when you open up a new e-wallet, you may have your virtual credit already, or maybe after some of the months. So right now, I will see this, all of those unbanked or in the developing countries, they will skip the era of credit cards. They just directly change to wallets, and they may, I think, in the future, for those like born after 00 or born after 10, they may even don't know what a credit card is in these countries. They only have their own wallets, and their wallet have some virtual limit, and this is what they know as credit card. So, and also about the smartphone, I think right now, I think many of you may not know the largest adoption of mobile payment country. Actually, right now, in terms of adoption rate, is still not China. I think it should be Kenya. So every Kenya people, I think starting from about 10 years or 15 years ago, they start using mobile payment, using just the feature phone. And it's not a smartphone, also using only the 2G network, feature phone with only the command mode, only the arrow you need to pin in. They use this very, I would call it's very old-fashioned technology right now to do mobile payment. So right now, if a smartphone, we are talking about the price of feature phone right now, I think it's almost like $100 per one of the cheapest smartphone right now. I don't think smartphone and the banking will be a hinder for all those countries we see. And naturally, we see a really high growth rate of wallet adoption in all over the Asian countries right now today.
Okay, I have a question for all of you, and this is a question that I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this are keen to know your take, particularly the fact that you're coming from 3 different places with different situations in terms of the COVID at this current time. Where do you see your company and the companies around you in 6 months' time? So if we push forward to October, November of next year, do you see this as a time where there will be a lot of new opportunities? Do you see this potential surge? They're talking quite a lot about this in China, this idea of people who are coming out of lockdown and going into buying a lot more than they would normally. I think they call it revenge buying in China, and the economy started to kick going again. Is this, is this something that you see a very positive outlook for you and your company at that period of time, or do you still think we've got a long way ahead before we're going to be out of this one? I should say one by one. So let's start with Edith, because we haven't heard from you for a while.
Okay, sure. I'll try. And I think as a person actually invests in a lot of companies, as I mentioned earlier, it really depends, right? So if you are in the area of anything sort of online related, regardless is delivery, online education, and particularly in China, just look at Douyin, which is TikTok outside China, or Kuaishou. There's pretty much, and that all the e-commerce now pretty much live streaming as a way of selling. So I think if you are already very comfortable operating online, you're in good shape. And in fact, it doesn't need to wait for 6 months. Your numbers is probably off the roof right now. And I don't know if venture capital necessarily will chase after you, because they do want to see COVID die down a little bit, just to see if your number will be sustainable. But having said that, yeah, I think if you're in that trajectory, you'll be doing fine. Having said that, I think our fellow Tim and Dennis mentioned earlier, anything related to travel, anything sort of physical, even though I am in San Francisco, everything is pretty much still in lockdown, and restaurant is slowly opening up. But why would anybody risk their lives to do that? I have no idea. And so in some sense, that fear will be in people. Like right now, I can't wait to come back to visit you guys in Hong Kong or in Beijing. But the most dangerous place is the plane. So even though I can't wait to see my family, but it will be all my fault if something happened to my parents. So in that sense, I don't know, like maybe it's 3 or 4 months from now, or maybe 6 months. But I think like the key thing is that as a business owner, as a CEO, is we need to adapt. And I am actually seeing some physical classes for fitness, and now changing everything to online. So you see some really creative solution and product came out because of this. You know, as our host you said earlier, if all of us are stuck at home, and now a lot of people, particularly in the US, is work from home. China is pretty back to normal now. For that 2 months, 4 months that you're staying at home, you know what? You may have some really creative idea or stage I have never thought of before, and I can't wait to hear from you about the creative idea you come up with, because when it's the tough time, it's the best time to create new things.
Great. Let's go over to Tim next. What's your prediction?
Okay, I totally agree with Edith. It's in my philosophy that if there's some fundamental change, there will always opportunities. And actually, we internally take this time to make a lot of big changes, including, of course, cutting some of the costs. And also, actually, before COVID, we are, although we say that we can do omni solution, but actually 90% of our customers are all offline. But right now, actually, I think we can really do a really good online and offline solution. And a lot of offline customers are asking us for all these solutions. And actually, when we previously, we try to sell them this solution, it's always, okay, we are thinking, okay, we have some more important projects. But right now, they reverse it, they're chasing us. So I think it's a really good opportunities for both us and also our clients to upgrade to their mindset and also prepare for the future. So I think all this digitalization is really great. And also we see some changes from the payment wallet side as well. Previously, they are really weak, or their focus is actually brick and mortar. They think that actually from the cases of both China and also other places in the world, the largest number of volumes that happens for mobile payments is actually offline. But right now, they have been keep on building the online abilities. So I think this COVID is actually will move the whole, especially mobile payment related industries and all the digital business, I think at least 3 years faster. So I think if we, no matter who is doing business right now, take this chance to go digital, go online, and then go omni-channel, I think who will survive will find that they are in a better position even before the COVID.
Great. And finally, let's go over to Dennis for your point of view from the Philippines. I presume you're from Manila. I'm not sure if the traffic has got any better in Manila because of the lockdown. I'm sure your drivers would appreciate that. I've spent many hours sitting in traffic in Manila. What is your prediction for the next 6 months out in the Philippines?
You know, the one thing good during the lockdown is we don't have traffic. You know, you can drive 140, 150 kilometers in EDSA. There's no traffic. So, but anyway, yes, as far as mobile and and myself is concerned, I'm very bullish. Again, because during the lockdown, I was able to certainly fix the company. We're able to reduce, project all the expenses that are not really needed. So we're very lean. We're very agile now, and it also gives us a very good validation, because prior to the lockdown, we've been offering our product, a product that our competitors are not offering to all the clients, and they don't see the importance. But now they're coming to us and say, hey, we want this product. We are able to create a niche product. Then we are now trying to be uniquely different from our competitor, and at the same time, we're also serving the same product of the same day delivery. Again, yes, we're very bullish. I think on the next 6 months, we're in fact, we're not changing our 2020 projection. There's a big chance that we can hit our 2020 target.
Well, unfortunately, thank you very much for that. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our time today. Again, it's been an absolutely fascinating discussion, and it's great to hear some positivity around this current crisis and some of the innovations that are happening, and particularly in the digital field and with the businesses that you're working with. This whole webinar will be online on our Facebook pages and on the Roundtable website if you want to come and check it out later. But for now, thank you once again to our panelists and to Professor Xiao for spending the time with us, staying up at night in Edith's case to be with us, and hopefully we'll be back with another webinar very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.